no, it's LeBradford Smith.
Yeah,
that's right.
Moving on. Here's Tyreek on his high expectations for Tua, who did lead the league in passing last year. Take a listen.
It's going to be scary this year, man. I'm going to call my shot. Like, he can be MVP candidate once again and even win the thing, man, because he's just that nice. Like, and I played with the best quarterback, which is Patrick Mahomes. Like, and I'm saying, like, he's up there in caliber-wise.
Okay. See, I like serious Tyreek. I think when he's serious and not kind of in character.
I can't believe you made this graphic.
I did not make it. I don't know how to make the graphics. Josh made this graphic. It's the last 2 seasons. We know that Mahomes had a down year. We also don't have Super Bowl wins or playoff wins or wins
When there's a light breeze or it's a little brisk.
But in the last 2 seasons, he's right there neck and neck. So I'm just saying it's not out of left field where some of the things Tyreek has said about Tua did seem to be out of left field.
But okay, go ahead.
You can have Tua MVP on the board.
No.
On the board?
Last year he led the league in passing yards and didn't get a single 5th place vote.
You know what it was?
What?
Bad marketing.
No. Because
29 total touchdowns. How many total touchdowns did Lamar have?
He had the 4th most interceptions. He couldn't beat
29.
a playoff team.
Yeah,
he was 10-1 against non-playoff teams. Yeah. They faded down the stretch.
They faded down the stretch.
Terrible in the playoffs.
I know.
Yeah, and he is on the board. He's 9th on the board according to DraftKings, and that's probably right where he should be.
I don't buy DraftKings.
Yeah, well,
look, I'm not a gambler, but I'd say that's exactly where he belongs.
Chose violence today.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, wild.
Yes.
It's when you said he had bad marketing, by that you meant they let the games be on TV?
No.
And people could see who the most valuable player on his own team was? Because that was Tyreek. Like, that's what when Tyreek showed up on the MVP ballots.
Tyreek got 60 votes.
Right, exactly.
Who's throwing the ball?
Was he
doing those handoffs?
But
end arounds?
Can I show you a number real quick? Because
Sure.
this is, I don't think it's on the board because I don't think he's good enough. But I know you're a Tua guy and your arguments are sound. The problem is, yes, there's the playoff team element, which is a problem. There's the cold weather element, which yes, there's a problem. But there's also the fact that every year of his career, not just because of the elements, he has trailed off at the end.
Yeah.
So we can show it to you. The player he is September through for his career, that is MVP caliber. Honest to God. And the player he is December through January is get benched caliber. And so, so I looked at that. I was like, is that just the cold weather?
Yeah.
It's not.
In 2021, he had 0 cold weather games in December, went 4-4 with a 75 rating. In 2022, before the final concussion, he only had 1 cold weather game down the stretch and had an 81 rating. When I said 4-4, I meant touchdown interception ratio. And then it was 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And then last year, I looked at the final game of the regular season. The reason they were in Kansas City, that game was in Miami. And I looked it up today. I was like, what was the weather on that January 7th evening in Miami? It was 71 degrees. And he threw for 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and a 63 rating. In
fairness, that's chilly for Miami.
Okay, sure. But he has trailed off at the end of every year of his career, which is another reason I don't think it's on the board.
I'm with you here, and I got it's
not even on the board.
It's not on the board, and I'll add to why. But I said it because the season that he had, how he started off last year, is just not sustainable. The way that he's played, you just alluded to it with all the numbers. I don't even have to go down that road, but I'll go down another path, another reason why it's not even on the board. And you've said this about another player because of the talent that's surrounding that other player,
Purdy.
Brock Purdy. It's not on the board because of who he plays with. There's no way we watch the Miami Dolphins and we look at that team and they're having success and our attention doesn't go to Tyreek Hill. It just doesn't happen. You said this, and I kind of.
It's hard if you're not the best player on your own side of the ball. If you're not the
best player on your own side of the ball, and when we think of your team, and when we think of impact players on your team, you're not the first one we think of. It's not on the board.
Mahomes was kind of like immunized from that because
correct.
Even though he had
even with Tyreek, I think when people thought of the Chiefs, they thought of Mahomes.
Yes.
People didn't think Tyreek was better than him.
Because he kind of helped birth the whole Tyreek identity of Cheetah.
Yeah.
Like that was a part of Patrick Mahomes' coming out party. Go ahead, Coach.
No, I absolutely agree with
All right,
you.
can I ask you a question then, Coach?
Yes.
All right, so I put down 3 things he needs to do to win MVP. Straight up more touchdowns. Like that was Mahomes' 50 touchdown year. So he had 29 total touchdowns. I think it's going to be hard because he's not getting a lot of total touchdowns. He's really just getting them through the air. So throwing touchdowns, he was 5th, but when you do total touchdowns, he goes down to 10th. That's not going to get it done. 2, strong finish, which you talked about. 3, little bonus. No mercy. If you get a chance to run up the score, remember they took their foot off the gas. He was out of the game. If you're going to run up the score on somebody, do it. But the question I have for you is this. This cold weather thing that Brew loves, and it does seem to be an actual issue with Tua, is there a way to actually train that or coach that? Or be like, they do silly stuff that doesn't pass the smell test of turning up the air conditioning before the Arrowhead game. Is there an actual way to be like, hey, we need to get better in the cold weather, but we all live in Miami?
Well, when we were in New England, we used to struggle when we'd go down to Miami because of the heat. And then early on, it was like, well, why don't we wear the white uniforms? We tried that and got our heads beat in. Why don't we do this? Turn up the temperature. We got our heads beat in. I remember Bill came in and said, hey, guess what, fellas? It's hot in Miami. Deal with it. And the reality
I think
is
that could be some of it.
It's one of those things where if you're going to let that be what defines your experience, then it's going to become an issue. But when you just realize, okay, this is what we have to deal with, just like the elements are part of what you encounter all the time in football, and if that's going to take you so far off your game, then it's probably never going to get better with a little bit, a little bit of
Also,
air
McDaniel's got to
conditioning.
wear short sleeves.
Yeah, I buy that. That's like Greg's thing.
Listen, I know
coach
you
needs to,
guys
like,
laughed at me in
not
that
look all
playoff
bundled
game.
up.
With Andy Reid had stalactites. Remember, we looked
Yeah,
this up,
tight.
hanging from his mustache, and was fine. Mike McDaniel was visibly miserable and saying how cold it was, and I just think it gives a different level of not an excuse, but like. It opens the door to, okay, it's just not for
Here's
us.
what we used
Yeah.
to do in New England, especially during the playoff time, is we put big thermometers up in the visiting locker room
Yeah,
hallway
to mess with
so
their
they
head.
could all see exactly how cold it was
and doctor
and make
them a
sure they
little bit,
understood.
just a little
it's
bit,
re-
rough
it's
them down.
really,
You guys
really
had
cold here.
microphones hidden in the back.
I don't know. I don't know what
Wait.
you're talking
Hold
about.
on. Ramsey, I just realized before we move on. Ramsey, the board.
What, the board is back?
Did he not say Tua's Mahomes caliber? Did he not say it?
Another
I'm
one.
sorry. I'm sorry. Did he not say
Double.
it? I heard it. It's on the board. I mean, sorry.
We
Is
had
that-
the graphic. Put Josh on the board for making that graphic.
Is that a direct? No, I'm putting you on the board. Josh does what you ask him to do. You're going to go on the board at
Josh
some
comes
point.
into my shared office and says, hey, I have something for you. Do you like it?
Yeah, because he knows you like bad takes.
That's true.
So,
All right, on the flip side, even though it's not the flip side, because I thought that Dolphins segment was going to be positive. On the flip side, the Dolphins' last playoff victory was December 30th of the year 2000.
yeah.
History not on their side. Last year, they sputtered to the finish line before putting up a cold performance in frosty Arrowhead to go home. Dolphins ranks under Mike McDaniel. The offense pretty good. The defense not so much. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a sound. Take a listen.
When I signed that contract, I feel like my is on the hot seat because if we don't do it this year, they're going to give them more room to get my up out of here. So we got to win this year.
Okay, sorry. Now we're back. Under Mike McDaniel.
Offense good, defense bad.
Yeah. So who's under the most pressure?
So I think it's the coach. And I love Mike McDaniel. But I have been grading Mike McDaniel on a curve because I think he's doing this with a limited quarterback. He, I believe, signed off on them giving this quarterback $50+ million. So now that's your team. And this is something I know, Coach, you'll be into. They are, as far as the cap moving forward, in brutal shape. This year, they're fine. Next year, 30th in cap space, one of 3 teams that are already $60 million or more over next year's cap because of how they've structured these. The other teams are Cleveland and New Orleans. New Orleans was in perpetual denial, and Cleveland, which has the Deshaun stuff kind of looming over everything they do. Next year, these players' cap hits go up by the